Coming in at number 11 is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'll be honest, I did not really care for this book. Dwarves and Gandalf come to Bilbo's house and they have some food. They get him to go on an adventure. They go through some orc mines or something. Bilbo encounters Gollum, which is quite spooky. They go to a house of this human bear shapeshifter. They travel through this dark forest, which seems forever. At some point, they escape from somewhere by getting into some barrels. Maybe it was the elves in the dark forest. I don't remember. They go to this town that's close to the mountain with the dragon. They discover the dragon's lair and the dragon, and a battle eventually happens and they win. I have great respect for Tolkien. I appreciate him as a scholar and a writer. I couldn't do what he did, but I did take a grad level course covering some of Tolkien's lesser known works like Leaf by Niggle, Beowulf, The Monsters and the Critics on fairy stories, selections from the Silmarillion, and his poem Mythopoeia. So I'm not unfamiliar with his project and I admire it, but even so, I still didn't care much for this book reading it now. I think I would have liked it if I had read it as a child or a teenager, and I think if a child or a teenager was reading it, I could extract things from it that would be beneficial in forming the right cast of mind and the love of the right things and virtue and all that stuff. But I didn't really care for it. I had read Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers, or at least I think maybe half of The Two Towers, when I was in high school, and I enjoyed them. Not enough to finish, so maybe I didn't enjoy them that much, but I certainly loved the movies. I really enjoyed, especially The Fellowship of the Rings, when it came out as a teenager. I appreciate fantasy for what it is and what it can do, especially for children, but our culture's present obsession with fantasy is obnoxious to me. The Marvel movies are some of the worst films I have ever seen, and they won't stop making them. The Star Wars franchise is a dumpster fire. Things like Stranger Things, with the exception of the first season, is a terribly written show. It's awful. It's a terrible show. And all of it just seems adolescent to me. It's the product of kind of an infantilized generation. So it made The Hobbit a little difficult for me to enjoy. I'm sure The Hobbit is probably a great book, and I just don't get it. But my present context has just soured me on the fantasy genre. I believe in the power of the kingdom of God to transform every area of life, which includes the fantasy realm. I think Tolkien and Lewis, in their fantasy work, created works of art and should be emulated, and we should have more things like this replacing stuff like modern Disney. Christians ought to be making the best stories like these for children and adults to enjoy. But I think our present nerd culture is disordered and, as I said, infantilizing. Eventually you have to grow up. Eventually you have to leave Narnia, and you should learn things from Narnia that you can then implement in the real world.